Very good. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this special council meeting tonight. Just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of which we meet tonight, and pay my respects to the elders and elders from other communities that may be present this evening. Thank you. Item 2, receipt of apologies. We have one from Councillor Stewart, and no other that I'm aware of. Item 3, declarations of pecuniary interest. In accordance with section 132 of the Local Government Act 2020, councillors who have a conflict of interest with respect to a matter being considered at this meeting must A, disclose the conflict of interest in the manner required by the council's governance rules 2020, and B, exclude themselves from the discussion making process in relation to the matters, including any discussion or vote on the matter at any council meeting or delegated committee, and any action in relation to this matter. Disclosures must occur immediately before the matter is considered. Councillors, any conflict of interest? No. Thank you. Item 3, or the item 4, 3 there, that's right. Policy reports 4.1 and draft sale yard precinct local law number 15. Director of Infrastructure and Delivery, Mrs. Hugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This evening we're presenting proposed sale yards precinct local law number 15 of 2023. Our current local law number 14 has been in operation since August 2013, as it's due to expire in August this year. Prior to making a local law, the council must take steps to engage the community in accordance with its community engagement process. The report to council this evening recommending endorsement of that process first step. We will be looking to engage with the Livestock Association Corporation and local livestock agents for feedback as part of this process prior to presenting a final local law to the council in August.
Thank you, Mrs. Hugh. Council, we have a recommendation before us that Council 1 proposes to make the sale yard precinct local law number 15 2023, and 2 gives notice of its intention to make the sale yard precinct local law number 15 to the community in accordance with the council's community engagement policy. Can I have a mover for that, please? Thank you. And the seconder? Any discussion, comments? Councillor Pollard?
No, I think it's just good that's going out in the community. I haven't had time to sit down and have a close look at it at this stage, but it's only in draft form. But it's great for them to get out to the community, get their ideas and information and incorporate it.
Thank you. Councillor Mill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Likewise to Councillor Pollard, it's good to get it out there. And I guess the other one has got some age about it now, been 2013. And I guess it'll be interesting to see what, if anything, needs to be changed in it from the user's perspective. Another one of those procedural things I've got no doubt, but good to get it sorted.
Thank you. Any further comment? The vote, all those in favour? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. 4.2, 4.21, Bull Shire Council Annual Budget 2023-24. Manager of Financial Strategies. I think on the screen, this statement, that will be you.
So yes, it would be me as Director Corporate. Thank you, Mayor. And Nathan, obviously our Manager Financial Strategy, has also been a key part of this process. So great to see Nathan joining us this evening. Thank you, Mayor, and through you tonight, I'm very pleased to be able to present to councillors tonight the, pardon my voice, annual budget for 23-24 financial year. Councillors and council staff have worked together over a number of months to bring the annual budget together for tonight's consideration. Councillors, I'll acknowledge that we've received 5 submissions to the draft budget over the last couple of months, and we have heard from speakers over previous council meetings on some of those proposals. As a result of that consultation, for consideration tonight is an allocation for up to $15,000 from the Design Support Program to support a funding agreement with the Birchip Early Learning Centre Parents Advisory Group Committee to support their development of a feasibility study on improvements and service expansion for the Birchip Early Learning Centre. So one of the key changes there from the draft budget to tonight's presentation, we've also noted that a declaration of rates and charges. So in alignment with the state government's fair go rate capping legislation, a proposed rate rise of 3.5%, and a number of considerations there about how we declare those rates and charges through the consideration of the annual budget. So just wanted to lastly thank councillors for their time and their engagement through this process. As I said before, very happy to be able to present the annual budget for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edmund. Councillors, we have a recommendation that council, having complied with the obligations under the Local Government Act 2020, recommendation that we adopt the budget. There are 10 points there in that recommendation, and I'll trust council have read it. I'm looking for a mover for that point.
I'm happy to move that.
Thank you, Councillor Hogan, and the seconder.
Yeah,
Councillor Mill.
the sake of discussion.
Discussion. Councillor Hogan.
I would like to thank the staff for all the work that they've put into preparing the budget, and I think it's a sensible, realistic budget. And I would, yes, so it should take us through to the next financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Mill.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Budgets are necessary, a necessary evil, I think, and sometimes they're only as good as the day they're written, because then they change. But we must have a budget to go forward, but and I guess we can't please everybody in every budget. So, but I do have a question or two, Mr. Mayor, to go on with. So, at our briefing the other night, with regard to the grant process, noted in the grants that are automatically given, there was suggestion that Wimmera Mallee Tourism had been dropped off the list, and that there was no funding available in this year's budget for that, given that we're probably still going to be going in 12 months' time before a VEP Visitor Economy Partnership is rubber stamped. I'm wondering where that ends up, and whether there's been any consideration given to what might be a new ask in the Visitor Economy Partnership for a higher amount of money, which hasn't been determined yet, but mooted at 15,000.
Did you get that, Mr. Edmund?
I certainly did. Councillor Milne, I would probably, given that we're at the point of considering our budget this evening, would likely take that question on notice. As you mentioned, budgets are forecast for our current year, and there's opportunity for us to revisit and review that as the year goes by and more information becomes known. Appreciate the comments there regarding the Wimmera Mallee Tourism Board. I would take that question on notice, and we would look to find space through that constant analysis and revision that we do each month, and particularly through our quarterly reporting process.
I guess, thank you, Mr. Edmund. I guess the question is it still in there, or has it been removed? the funding for Wimmera Valley Tourism from Bull Oak Shire? Because I know the bills are about to be sent out for this year.
So the funding that was, the line item of funding that was within the budget was taken out with the advice that the Wimmera Valley Tourism Board was to fold. However, I understand that information is changing. So that is something that we can consider moving forward as to where we then obtain that funding from to support what I'm sure is an important advocacy group for tourism within our shire. But I guess that decision will remain with councillors moving forward as we work through adjustments to our rolling budget through the quarterly process.
Through the Mayor, I would say that there is an ongoing principle understanding that the council will support Wimmera Valley tourism on an ongoing basis until such time as any changes may be made in the future. As for the second part of that question, Councillor Milne, in relation to has there been any provision for additional funding for any changes? No, there hasn't, because we simply don't know what the structure of that would look like. But if and when that arises during the upcoming financial year, we will do that again and bring that back to council's consideration.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to move a small amendment. It's in the capital works area. I'd like to move that the Donald Tennis Court synthetic resurfacing be shifted to the capital projects which are funding dependent. And the money assigned to that project is relocated into roads to support achieving all-weather access to our rural residents. Some are struggling to get all-weather access as per our road management plan.
Councillor Pollard, do we have a seconder for that amendment?
Can I seek clarification on the amount of money that was allocated without being able to bring it in?
53,500.
Thank you.
Okay, seconder for that amendment.
Just check with the mover, Mayor, who is Councillor Hogan, that she.
Councillor Hogan, have you heard Councillor Pollard's amendment?
Yeah, I did, but look, I'm not probably up to speed with that line item, so I'm probably not prepared to
It's got to be
second that.
Second before the amendment motion.
Yeah, got to get a second.
it's not the amended motion, it's just a change to the motion. You require a seconder to make it live, then there's a discussion. So,
I'll ask once more, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Simpson?
Sorry, no.
Oh, that is, sorry.
Can you repeat that amendment, please, because I didn't catch it all.
And to be clear, a seconder is seconded, when a seconder is seconded, it's for discussion only.
discussion. The Donald Tennis Court synthetic resurfacing project be shifted to capital projects which are funding dependent. And that the 53,500 assigned for this project in the budget is relocated into roads to support achieving all-weather access for rural residents as per required in our road management plan.
That's the motion. Do we have a second for that point?
Okay, I'm happy to second that. for
Councillor
discussion.
Simpson. Discussion, please.
Discussion with that project, the bit that concerns me with that is the Birchip Bowling Club several years ago had to get grant funding and had to get 100% of grant funding, and council only did project management for them. And the Winchipproof Tennis Club did the same thing, had to get all the grant funding, and council only did project management. The bit that concerns me with this is it could form a precedent in reference to other communities wanting synthetic surfaces to be replaced, to be wholly funded by council. And as well as that, as I read in the briefing last week, we're actually, with our budget deliberations, the Winchipproof Narraport Football Club put in a request for funding to carry out some of the projects in their master plan, and we've actually put that onto this area where it's capital projects which are funding dependent. And I think we should be, I believe we should be treating all communities equal.
Councillor Simpson.
So my question is, if we remove that out of the budget and put it into the roads, how does that affect our standing when we've already said that we're going to fund netball courts, tennis courts?
So through the mayor, so the answer to that question is that the funding for that tennis courts would now be subject to us getting external funding for that project. And then that $53,000 is being moved across into the roads capital program.
Can I just ask a question? Through you, Mr. Mayor, could I just get some clarification? So with that 53,500, which is been allocated to do the courts, is there also a contribution from the tennis club?
Not as per the listing in the capital works part of the budget.
So there's no contribution as well to that, or is that the full cost of doing the job?
By reading the capital works listing in the budget, that is the full cost of doing the job.
All right, well, I can see where you're coming from then in relation to if the other communities have been required to get funding or put contribution in, that maybe needs to be looked at.
Councillor Warren.
I don't like this game, Councillor Pryor. I'll go through the budget and I'll have a look at the Wychee-proof wetlands. If we're talking about contributions to projects from the community.
I'm talking about.
I'm just saying it. I mean, if we're going to cherry pick a few things, let's have a look at the Wychee-proof wetlands and say where is the contribution from the Wychee-proof community to the skate park, as was required by the Birchip community, the Donald community, and the Charlton community. I think if you want to cherry pick, that's fine. That's all I have to say.
Councillor Warren. Councillor Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess two things. Two things from this is that, or maybe three things, but the amount of money at 53,500, we haven't actually, I guess, communicated with the Donald Tennis Club to whether there will be a co-contribution. And I guess if we were to seek that down the track, then that amount of money that we're actually up for could be reduced. And I guess some form of discussion may have been had with the Donald Tennis Club in coming to this arrangement here, but I don't know what that would be. I don't know who's had the discussion. And where that stands, the 53,000, while it's a significant amount of money for a tennis club, it's a very minuscule amount of money for a road to add benefit to the road budget. So I see that as something that will help me consider my decision. And I guess when it comes to what other communities are being prepared to put in or been asked to put in, there is, as Councillor Warren's pointed out, there is certainly just some discrepancy in the fact that not every community has been asked every time to contribute towards projects of sporting or recreation nature that seems to be the flavour of this motion. So at this point in time, I just, yeah, I don't know what the benefit will be one way or the other as far as the money goes. And I suggest that until we ask the tennis club whether they have got a co-contribution, then we're assuming that they have.
Well, Councillor Pollard, or I reply. Councillors, we vote on the amendment. Move the amendment. Moved by Councillor Pollard, second by Councillor Simpson. But all those in favour? Against? Amendment is lost. We'll go back to the original recommendation. That was moved by Councillor Hogan, I can't remember. Councillor Mill seconded, so all in favour of the budget as,
Yeah, I've seen that other councils have say that budget, I'd like to too.
certainly made, Councillor White.
Thank you. Sadly, councillors, today we did have an opportunity to build a better Buller. We've squandered that opportunity. In the 21-22 budget, council allocated $7.43 million for our road network. And that was on the back of a modest 1.5% rate increase. This year, we're being asked to approve a budget that allows only for a meagre $5.4 million for our road network, on the back of an increase of rates of 3.5%. I see something wrong here. This is a huge decrease, over nearly $2 million over that period. It's about looking after our ratepayers, and as we all know, 72% of our rate income comes from the farming community. What does the farming community need? They need access, fit for purpose road network that allows them to get to their properties, plant a crop, get it off, and thus earn enough to pay that 72% of rates that we need as a council to survive. In assessing the remainder of the budget, I'd liken it to a piece of Swiss cheese. More holes than you could drive a header through. During this process, there's been various issues brought to the council's attention in terms of identifying revenues, or I suppose costs that hadn't been capitalised. There are issues in regard to World Cup premium going forward, and that has a huge impact on our budget. In the budget itself, I suppose the out clause is that council can consider in September, as part of the quarterly financial statements, any changes to the budget. However, it does not give me any comfort to think that we have to wait till September, October to find out where our budget actually sits, whereas tonight we have the opportunity to go back. Sadly, I'm not convinced that we have the capacity to deliver on the budget that's before us tonight, given the cost overruns and the overruns in terms of timing, etc., that we've seen in the last probably 18 months. I just think that, sadly, we have missed an opportunity to build a better budget. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Warren. Councillor Mill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Can I seek clarification as to what might have been a variation in the amount of road funding we've seen between this budget compared to last year's budget from external sources? Did we miss out on building better roads or roads and bridges, or what? Is there something there that we've missed?
Apologies, through the mayor, Councillor Milne, I have looked at those comparisons recently. If you allow me the time to find the information, I should be able to give you that. From memory, there was a substantial change in the amount of funding that was received last financial year versus this financial year, hence the drop in allocation, but I don't have the specific figures, apologies. So in 2021 we had a total roads program of 4.99 million, grant income of 1.92. In 21-22, we had a total program of 7.44 million and grant income of 4.8. In 22-23, so this current financial year, we had a total road program of this is according to budget documents, apologies, 6.97 million, grant income of 2.46. This coming financial year, our roads program tagged at 5.6 million, and grant income, apologies, is 2.72. So a similar amount of grant income across those road projects. Perhaps the Director of Infrastructure may be able to give some context as to whether that 5.6 and 2.72 million in income includes the any carry forward amounts from this financial year.
No, we'll have to take that on notice. However, we are expecting to be successful through DRFA processes for immediate reconstruction and also REPA associated with rehabilitation after the. So we're currently preparing packages for submission to that coming body for review.
Okay, so we haven't had it, but the conclusion I draw from that, and if I've heard right, is that we jumped from 4-point-something million in total roads to 7.8 million roads, 0.8 million in roads. And we're dropping down to 6, with 6-point-something with a fairly major drop in grant income as well across the years. So I'm just trying to get my head around Councillor Warren's concern, I guess, and work my way through that. It takes me a little bit of doing when it's we've got to make a decision tonight. But I mean, I see it as an opportunity maybe missed, but I guess there's justified reasons as to why there's a lower spend. Councillor Warren might not agree, I guess, but there is also another large asset renewal project and capital works program that's going on. So I mean, thank you. You've explained what I wanted to know as far as income goes, and I think at the moment we're probably in a fair to reasonable position with the budget.
Councillor Simpson. Councillor Pollard. Councillors, that's moved by Councillor Hogan and seconded by Councillor Milne. The adopt the budget with those 10 recommendations are there. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. And thank you, Michelle and Nathan, for your work. And let's hope you all pans out and we move forward from there. Thank you very much. Councillors, that concludes this evening's items agenda. I will now close the meeting, and I thank you for your attendance. Thank you.
See ya.